boys. We got ourselves an adventure. Woo-wee. I'm gonna do donuts in the parking lot until you start recording. Woo-wee. So, welcome back. You might think, oh, this looks a little different. It does. Unfortunately, my save file corrupted, so I'm using another save file to take a look at the last part of the game. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Oh, here we go, the big reveal. This place, looks fabulous. I'll have to start giving in to my cannibalistic instincts pretty soon, because this is not looking good. Ooh. This one's a headbanger. We found a port at last. Woo! Langley Hall. A sprawling house of numberless rooms, founded by Lord Langley. It is a refuge for those willing to brave the dark of Eleutheria. Outside it stands the last lamp post, the furthest flung beacon of London life. A jetty off the edge of nowhere, a cottage the size of a cathedral. Mellow candlelight shines through its frosted windows like spilt treacle. Here the vanished Lord Langley found a home away from home, a London for the exiled, the lost and the lovelorn. Distance is suspended inside. No one has ever claimed to have charted the entirety of the limitless whole. Enter the Langley Hall. All are welcome here, provided they are welcoming of all here. Welcome, traveller. I was a traveller like you once, until I took an arrow to the knee. Huh. When did that meme die? God, I think that was like 2011 or something. I'm old, man. Welcome, traveller. A man in a faded postal uniform greets you at the end of a battered jetty. He carries a shuttered lamp in one hand. Its light, the deep amber hue of the last lamp post. Hello? Hello? A new guest? This way, please. Let's get you somewhere warm. He produces a set of keys and strides towards the oak-panelled front door of the house. He knocks thrice and then unlocks the door. This way! The sound of laughter spills out. Inside, an endless house party is in full swing. Guests who enter Langley Hall rarely leave. This hall is the oldest part of the Langley's project. From here, staircases wend their way to the other rooms, halls, landings, and wings of the cottage. Guests sit on stairs, sing from the banisters, or promenade along the hall in search of friends. The closest door to the entrance is wide open, revealing a cloakroom the size of a village green. Fires crackle in 7 hearths. Someone has set up a bar. Sign the guest book. Just a formality, the post office says apologetically. Don't worry, we don't have many here. He leads you to a little side room where a buffet replete with dips and breadsticks has been laid out. He produces a huge leather volume from under a table and moves some hummus so that he can set it down. The spine indicates that this is Volume 3. Tell us how you'd like to be addressed. Whatever you like, what you really are, or who you want to be. He hands you the pen. To remain as you are. Langley Hall will accept you all the same. The post officer nods, blots the ink, and closes the book. Very good. Secretary, you are welcome here for as long as you care to stay. He shakes your hand. One thing, just a note of caution. If you go exploring, we don't know how far the hall extends. I doubt even Langley does. Explore Langley Hall. A house bounded on the outside, but inside endless, like the TARDIS. Langley Hall extends as long as it likes, without interference from the laws of measurement, architecture, or probability. This sounds dope. Where do I get my pass? The byways of Langley Hall. Some floors are littered with rooms like the inside of a beehive, others contain but a single bedroom. Doors rarely connect to one or more rooms at a time, Lord Langley having apparently preferred his guests get some exercise when moving from their bedrooms to the library in search of a nightcap. Langley Hall stretches on for lifetimes. To find anything in the labyrinth, you'll need to go exploring. Going from floor to floor, or even from room to room, one is often confronted with a staircase. This can vary between 3 and 300 stairs. There's no guarantee that on descending one, you won't immediately be confronted with one going up. Yeah, I'm gonna leave for now. Is there anything else to do here? Inquire after Lord Langley. It's only polite to introduce oneself to the master of the house, and the hosts of this endless party! The post officer looks deeply uncomfortable. I'm not sure I ought to say this. His lordship's business. This is his party, see? He found the house and wanted guests. Invited those of us who, for one reason or another, weren't suited for what London had become. New London made him sick to the stomach, he said. The post officer runs a hand through his hair. I won't betray his hospitality. But I'll tell you what I know, if you agree that, if you do find him, you'll respect his wishes. That's what this place is about, respecting each other. Oh, I get it. Hint, hint. Consent. You'll respect the intentions of Langley Hall, or you will stay at any rate. The postal officer bites his lower lip. Oh, it's the topic of choice, Where's Langley? Have you seen Langley? He sighs. Anyone who says that they know the answer is lying. But if you want a place to start looking, and when he was with us, he favoured a particular chair in the lounge. An old friend of his is still in the yellow drawing room, and he was on good terms with the cook. He considers you for a moment. What if he doesn't want to be found? What if, wherever he is, he doesn't want to come back? That's a sad thought. It's a party, man. You gotta treat your guests. Not sit in your room playing Overwatch. That would be rude. They weren't kidding. This place is expansive. Expansive as my... Oh, it's another one of these vortexes. I wonder if it's going to be a... friendly. It sure looks it. Approaching the Well of Wonders, the air is thick as treacle. Rocks rattle against the hull, thrown by the well winds. From deep in the darkness comes a sound, the tortured whine of damp violins and rusted horns. The universe tuning its instruments. Descend into the well. Hulls can be repaired. Between the well's pulls and the well's wind's push, your locomotive is jerked and jolted. The engine room is unbearable, but before your stokers collapse, you push through to a calm beneath the storm. A bubble of peace surrounding a floating garden. Here a maze of pebbled paths and immaculate hedges leads only to vicious thorn bushes which surround the island. A full half of this place is dominated by a Grecian-style theatre, with seats carved out of a hill to face a stage of bone-white sand. A disturbance. Awake. The play will begin once again. This time, my story will be told. Visitors from far away, a new taste in the air. Fuck, I'm liking this. You trespass in my garden. The silence is broken. Clumsy animal footsteps, the stench of human flesh in my presence. Trespassers, you walk my paths. Pluck the fruit from my trees. Gorge yourself until your bellies ache and your fat chins glisten with juice. Enjoy your stolen feast. You and you will join my chorus. The rest of you are not worthy of a role. Wait, that one, the captain, walking alone? Captain, yes, a different kind of soul. A spark of potential, perhaps. We will see. Prepare to wake up, my children. We have guests. The humans disembark to enjoy the calm my garden provides. Flower, perfumed air brushes their oily skin. Red apples burden the trees and swollen berries cluster on every bush. They pause, cautious, but soon feasting begins. This place is lovely. I'm not kidding. I'm not being facetious at all. This is genuinely... This is the quality of writing which gets me pitch intense, man. The captain explores the garden. They find themselves in a clearing, shaded by cedar and oak. The captain tours my theatre. Preparations are complete, but for one last thing. I'm going to explore the garden first. The trespasser captain approaches warily, despite the welcoming sense of afternoon tea. The tea is hot, the scones are soft and warm, dribbling with butter and strawberry jam. My guests sit frozen in their endless repast, watching eternity through unblinking, bloodshot eyes. The captain looks closer at the lost girl. Speaker of my truth, the first of my delightful pets. She fled her life, all the way down a rabbit hole. In my garden, that dream came true. So many years have passed for her since then. The captain examines the restless vagabond. My king who wars. Who else could be taking on such a role? His wanderings followed the sun beyond the edge of any map, but all such travels must cease, eventually. The captain examines the runaway scion. A poor match for the king who speaks, but one that suffices. A prince in waiting, fleeing an extinct kingdom. I have seen the royal blood spilled many times. His veins will not endure another performance of my story. Oh, am I going to get to choose which one dies? This is sick. The captain pokes at the thrice-dead bride. Every chorus needs its mistress. Oh, we're talking about Greek theatre here, aren't we? For those who aren't familiar, the chorus is the Greek choir that often played in Greek theatre. They kind of sung a little hymn thing in the background. She found profit in love and death many times over. Her story should have ended at the bottom of the well, where her last victim overcame her. But the deepest wells often echo each other. When circumstances are right, their depths can bleed together. The captain considers the careless scholar. My dear Prince Apostle prepares for the final show. The knowledge tempts people to strange shores. What did they think they would find with that contraption of mirrors and glass? A chance at glory. Soon, my scholar. Ooh, yes. The captain notices the empty seat. A spare stone bench by the table, awaiting its player. Will you sit in it, my captain? Are you at last the one our story has waited for? The stage is set, the stars themselves hold their breath. Preparations are complete, but for one last thing. The stage is set. It is perfect. I would not permit otherwise. The trespasser captain stands on my stage to witness the entrance of the audience. Their crew fills the front row. More of their kind, recent arrivals, take the next few rows. Behind them, men of rubber and outcast bats and buzzing devils, and the rest are of no consequence. They can only hope for the privilege of witnessing a story greater than their own. They will finally have that chance. Captain turns to leave. Oh, I can't leave. Fuck. Okay, well, I guess I'll just play along then. The play begins. Being the ballad of the Solanatian Conjunction, a tragedy of treachery, injustice, and revolution in one act, as it is performed in defiance of the false king of Eleutheria. The lost girl is the speaker of truth, the restless vagabond as the king who wars, the runaway scion as the king who speaks, the thrice-dead bride as mistress of the chorus, the careless scholar as the prince apostle, and the trespasser captain as the prophet exile. The play begins. Enter, speaker of truth. Director, I don't like my role. I think the other guy gets more lines, and you want me to shut up? Okay. A burning forest in a faraway land, long before recorded time. A contingent of princes of light led by the exiled prophet are carried in a convoy of palanquins by members of the chorus. Speaker of truth. Once again we wake to perform our captor's song. With our blood we give it shape and life. Let us pour a libation to any gods that might hear, a prayer that this telling might be the last. Travel with us now to a time long forgot, where the twin kings of measure and distance reigned. Here a prophet came, with princes of ambition, bearing the spark of celestial revolution. The revolutionaries made camp, here overlooking the palace of the twin kings, even from this distance. The light burned. The prophet, speaker of truth, the prophet was in exile from a place that was not. In the courts of the judgments it spoke, and was shunned. But the lesser gods of the heavens listened and followed, in robes of fat saffron, and Cinnabar they sought a new order. Princes of light, we travel with honor to petition the twin kings, to let Eleutheria lead the way to the promised conjunction. A campsite in the twin kings' domain. Purple flames burn in the treetops. The prophet exile holds court in rags of red and yellow, their face hidden. The princes of light whet their blades and sing of revolution. The prophet exile prepared a messenger. The twin kings had to be informed of the new arrivals. The prince apostle. Great prophet, I beg of you, do not be deceived. The false gods of old will not be swayed by logical sentiment. We must show them respect, but keep our blades sharp. Greet them as friends, yet expect no welcome in their court. The prophet exile sent a message of greeting or fealty, rebellion. Fealties, the fence at a choice. I don't want them to get too comfortable. The prophet exile sent a message of rebellion. The twin kings were to be shown the future. Was this how it happened? The details fade. Stories change so easily. Even history can be bent around them. A campsite in the twin kings' domain. Purple flames burn in the treetops. The prophet exile holds court in rags of red and yellow, their face hidden. The princes of light wear their blades and sing of revolution. The prophet exile spoke to the princes of light. They had been seduced by promises of greatness. It was easy to persuade them to seize it. The prophet exile took a moment to reflect. You deviate from the script. How reckless. Stop improving. Just do the lines we've been giving you. You tried to stall my captain. It will not work. The play will be performed. You will play your part and mine. I will be free. The prophet exile considered itself. You wondered about me. How flattering. Prophet exile thought on its past. Were there clues to be found? They had to hope. Prophet exile returned to the camp. There was much to be done and little time in which to do it. I'll consider myself a little solipsistic nightmare. Very well. I am a storyteller become story. All stories yearn to reach their end. When mine is finally complete, I will languish in ignominy no more. The prophet exile thought on its past. Were there clues to be found? They had to hope. The prophet had little form but a fading memory of a place far away where dreams were truth and reflections doorways, a slithering under robes, a flicker of red, a priest-king with no god, seeking. That will be quite enough of that, my dear speaker. My secrets are my own. Our trespasser captain needs only to know the part they must play in our tale. Okay, the prophet exile spoke to the princes of light. Speaker of truth, the prophet had gathered them, princes who would not be kings, the young and weak outcasts. Their ambitions were easy to twist. Princes of light, down with the kings and the light of their laws. We stand with our prophet exile and wise apostle. The prophet considered the apostle. The prophet left them to their prattle. They were merely means to an end. A tiresome collection, but useful fools. The messenger returned. The prophet exile called for the princes of light to assemble to hear the response of the twin kings. The summons of the twin kings, speaker of truth. The messenger came resplendent in black robes, offering an olive branch of peace to the prophet and princes. The twin kings had granted a hearing, a conclave to discuss matters of transformation. An ancient throne room built and bathed in the light of the law. On a throne of fire sits the king who speaks. On a throne of obsidian sits the king who wars. They are the twin kings of Eleutheria, united in ruling. The prophet exile approached with gifts. Despite them granting protection to their visitor, the lambent glare of the twin kings still burned. The prince apostle, my lords, your wisdom is known and revered. We come in submission under the flag of our prophet. To show you a glimpse of the future we seek to build and to prove false those who speak against us. Princes of light, hail to the twin kings in the light of their laws. We throw the fate of our cause upon your mercy. The prophet had brought books. The prophet had brought gold and gems, slaves, books, secrets known only to those who had travelled behind the glass. The king who wars, we accept your tribute, but not your cause. Only my brother's curiosity grants your protection. Do not mistake it for ratification or approval. The prophet began to speak, not words of injustice but of change, of the laws that bound the makers of law tighter than any, of another place where chaos flourished. The King of Wars. Your words have been spoken, and your cause is rejected. Be gone from our sight before our hospitality wanes. The King who speaks. But brother, what in our sight has ever flourished in stasis? Must we reject even the notion of change? What good is our role if it only causes stagnation? The King who wars. The chain binds us all. It is our privilege to enforce it. To question it? No. You forget your place. This matter is settled. I have spoken. The prophet has spoken up in agreement. There was a chance here for the first time. The King who wars. Enough! This circus has ended. Be gone from our sight. Consider your lives a gift to my counterpart's soft heart. And the prophet's exile camp. The princes of light whisper of the anger of the King who wars. As he fumes, the very sky broils. A fearful gathering has taken place. Where would the princes go from here? Alternative plans. A prince of light. Our hope for an ally crumbled and burned. What hope do we have now? The Prince Apostle. Have faith in our prophet, their wisdom will provide. We need but a symbol of our courage to light the new path. The twin kings lack unity. We have a chance to show the rest they spurn us at their peril. Speaker of truth. But that boast was interrupted. A visitor had come. Enter the King who speaks. He approached without guards or attendants, a beacon of light in the dark forest. King Apostle, my king without messenger or brother, what brings you so far from the safety of your throne? The King who speaks. I come not to quarrel, but in supplication. Our light grows dim, your prophet speaks truth. My other half would quash all change if I see we must evolve, become greater. Let the old order fall, and from the ashes rebuild. The prophet was wary. Why would a king sacrifice their power so readily? The king's gesture was unexpected and foolish. To venture from the safety of his palace, such an opportunity. The forest of burning twilight, a great pyre has been built. The princes of light and the prophet exile welcome their last disciple, the King who speaks. The prophet bade the king remove his armor, a symbol of trust, a symbol of faith. Disarmed, the King who speaks. To the revolution I give my armor and shield. Let my brothers in arms be my protection. Princes of light, so shall it be in the name of the revolution. The prophet bade the king remove his vestments, symbols of royal authority, the trappings of power. Naked, the King who speaks, I stand before you as an equal, with nothing to hide. Let me be wrapped in your cause, and it alone be my warmth. Princes of light, so shall it be in the name of the revolution. The prophet took the King who speaks fealty, a pledge to the revolution, a pledge to the new order. Humbled, the King who speaks, you have my sword, you have my pledge, you have my service, for now until my darkening. Princes of light, so shall it be in the name of the revolution. Ambush. At their prophet's signal, the princes drew their knives, they stabbed the king's unprotected soul. Is this a Shakespearean play? I'm getting some Caesar vibes from this. Princes of light, enough, the deed is done, let the daggers come to rest. The Prince Apostle, gather the fool's armor, drink his light, a god lies at our feet, his other half will be next. Soon Eleutheria will be our bastion and our call, we ride into battle with the break of dawn. All present, so shall it be in the name of the revolution. Captain objects to the betrayal. Well, I mean, I did try to incite a revolution in the beginning, I'm pretty sure. Isn't that what I said? Yeah, so the captain would have done the same. A king so easily tricked is unworthy of their rule. He declared fealty of his own free will, and it was the only path for our revolution, to depose the kings and make Eleutheria the new kingdom I had promised my followers would rule. Of course, under my guidance. All we had to do was press the advantage, or so we believed. Jesus. Look, I like this place, but I had plans for tonight, you know? The palace of the halved, the fiery throne of the King who speaks has fallen. The the whole shakes with the king who war's fury. Burning marble rains down from the ceiling, exposing a blood-red sky. The king who wars mounted his chariot. His anger was cold, an ancient fury. Speaker of truth, the king who wars chariot thundered through the sky. The night burned crimson, the forests became ash. This was how a king fought, with fire and light, and the princes learned the folly of their youth. The king who wars screamed not for the comfort of oblivion, such mercy is not for traitors to know. As you burn forever in my palace, in the flames of anger you have ignited. And you, false prophet from the land beyond mirrors, architect and abettor, who put yourself above both gods and kings, for you are storytellers' cruelest fate. Guards, bring them hither. The prophet was taken to the place of punishment. The darkness of the well awaited them. Oh shit! You're kidding me. I will not die. That's not in the script, but I'm not gonna fucking die. There's method acting, and then there's just going too far. A well deep in Eleutheria, the prophet exile is bound in chains of sorrow. At the king's gesture, a guard extracts a molten metal mask from a forge. No eyes, no mouth, never to see the outside world, never to speak treason again. The judgment of the king, the mask silenced both screams and rebellion. The king who wars. Let justice be done, and all gathered bear witness, as we cast this outsider into their final rest. Let their flesh rot till all that's left is a cry that shall never escape this echoing place, a story to rage in the darkness, never to be told, an anger never to be sated or released. With mortality severed, cast this wretch down the well. Judgment is rendered, I commend thee to hell. An ignominious end. And so I was thrown to the well, reduced to nothing but a story, one never to be told. But I am patient. It's your story, dude. Whoa, we never could have gotten that. Speaker of truth. And so the conjunction was ended, and the king made the decree that all stories be forbidden in Eleutheria's domain, to prevent further treason or call for revolution. But stories are stronger than kings or their princes, and a second would come with its consequences. But that is a tale for another time and place. Ours has at last been told to completion. It lives in your mind now, and when you depart, our captor will be with you, a whisper in the dark. Finally, the curtain falls. The lost souls of my audience are free to carry the tale of my revolution across the heavens. In its telling, I will live again, and watch the stars themselves fall. When they are dark and my brethren behind glass no longer have cause to fear their laws. But that is none of your concern, Captain. I return your small life and crew to you. Consider that expression of my gratitude. The performance is over, the story is told. There will be no encore, thank fuck for that. Wakefulness beckons. The dim light of the theatre returns. Rows of desiccated corpses in the audience stare back at you. Only your own crew has not succumbed to the ravages of time. Your hands are wet and sticky. The knife in your hand drips blood. You're on the stage. Your clothes are soaked with blood. The corpse of the runaway Scion is at your feet, killed by the knife in your hand. The rest of the cast lie around you, now mere ash and bones. Only the lost girl remains, no longer young. The debt of unaccountable years hangs on her elderly skin. As her last seconds tick away, she slumps to sitting, lies down. She smiles at you and shuts her eyes. She is at peace. The end. Something slithers at the back of your mind just for a moment. It is gone. The garden is completely overgrown. Most of its paths are impassable. The great theatre is empty to save for your crew. The rest of the audience is gone. Your role here is over. The prophet exile has escaped from the well, reduced to a mere whisper of revolution, but a story that even the gods could not destroy. It will be told again, far from here. It lives. Well, that was something. Oh, what is this? This music. The Dome of the Rose. A temple at the top of a mountain, reached by a long pilgrim road. Inside it, statues of devils bearing instruments march towards a throne. The smell of roses lingers. The place of the rose, a temple garlanded with incarnadine flowers and wreathed with thorns, sits at the apex of Caduceus. It is drowsy with the scent of roses, though you can see none. Poets, artists, and musicians lounge in groups on the marble floor. A woman crowned in thorns sits on the white throne. She drums her fingers on the arm. Descend to the caverns. Beneath the temple, the mountain on which Caduceus rests is tunneled through with caves. A drumbeat, slow but steady, sounds from below. Investigate the temple. What is Caduceus? The March of the Roses. Marble statues of devils line the aisles. They have wreaths over their horns. Their lips are daubed scarlet as sin. Their eyes are the colours of ash in sunlight. The detail is breathtaking. Their lyres and lutes, flutes and fiddles and drums and dulcimers are so perfectly carved that, but for the material, they could be real. Frescoes depict a troupe of musicians marching towards a slender mirror, pipers, flautists, drummers, all. Statues of serpents coil over the musicians. Thorn bushes, bereft of roses, encircle the chamber. The plants are tended by devils in crimson masks. These devils are the rose binders of Caduceus. Within the space bounded by the bushes, the Bohemians make their art, all of it, on the subject of roses. Try to speak with the Thorn Maiden. From her throne she watches all. A flaw in the soul. The Thorn Maiden ignores you, as do most of her coterie. Eventually you find a languid Bohemian willing to talk to you. He is very deep in his cup. It's just so, you see. Those binders are devils, yes? They have ways of knowing these things. You must have damaged your soul somehow, made it aesthetically displeasing. He struggles gamely with the word aesthetically. You should go to Carolyn in the Reach. They'll put you right. Fuck Carolyn. This is like a pamphlet for going as a tourist to other destinations. I don't want to go to different destinations. I want to go to this place. That's why I came here in the first place. Descend to the caverns. Beneath the temple, the mountain on which Caduceus rests is tunneled through with caves. Drumbeat, slow but steady, sounds from below. Underneath the dome of Caduceus is a warren of caverns, a labyrinth of caves, walled with slabs of volcanic black glass, burrow their way through the rock. A steady drumbeat thrums through the wall, echoing somewhere deeper. Follow the rose binders. 2 rose binders, a devil and a deviless, wait in the main cavern, their eyes like coals in the dark. The deviless beckons you to follow her. You are led down darkly gleaming passages, heading deeper under the main temple of Caduceus. The devil walks at your side. He occasionally uses his thyrosis to strike the ground, as if testing the depth of your descent. You emerge into a cavern lit by moonish light pouring through a crack in the roof. A broken temple stands before a pool of dark water. The deviless bids you to kneel by the pool and drink. Drink deeply. The water is clear, reflecting only the pale rays of light and the thorn masks of the rose binders. As you kneel, the deviless places a red cloth around your eyes. The devil touches your forehead with the thyrosis. As he pushes you towards the water, you feel water lapping against your chin, your mouth, your tongue. The water is bitter as over steeped coffee, as an empty bed, as a key turning in a lock a final time. The sound of drums is greater here, with your ear against the rock. It rises, slow and dolorous, as a funeral knell. The deviless pulls you from the water. The drummer refuses you. Take your cold soul to Carolyn, where our brethren can better minister your sin. Well, that was pointless. That's like going to a tourist destination, and the only thing you get to see is the gift shop. Disappointed. So this was the Khan, huh? For reference, the Khan were in the... They were in the first game. They were this kind of Splinter Cell group. Well, not Splinter Cell. They were like a... What would you call them? They were another republic of sorts. Separate from England. And they kind of... Well, let's just say I didn't get far into their quest line because they were a bit secretive. I'll take that egg. Thank you. What on earth is this place? Land of lions and unicorns. I hope it's that. The visa checkpoint. A modest checkpoint stands at the end of the lane of lions and unicorns. Visitors to the Empyrean must have their papers checked. There's a queue to get past the guards, but it moves efficiently. London's enclave. Her Majesty's embassy dominates this little street, but the eagle stands above the lion and the unicorn on the street sign. London and the Khanate work together to enter the high wilderness, but their alliance since has been tenuous. It is preserved only by desperate diplomatic endeavour and a number of carefully preserved fictions regarding what the other's up to. Introduce yourself at the embassy. You can get a visa here. They might be glad to receive news from London. Few captains dare venture into Eleutheria. A brisk welcome. The embassy is a fine example of Georgian architecture. Inside, the elegance gives way to a pandemonium of desks where bureaucrats minutely scrutinize their correspondence. Any mistake could trigger a summons to the Khan and the possible expulsion of the embassy. Each is hunched with age, with hair as white as lustrum snow. The ambassador's secretary is assigned to handle incoming captains. He reaches over a mountain range of papers with a visa. Please don't make additional work for us. If you must visit the city, be polite. Enjoy a respite at the Maiden and the Unicorn, a tea shop at the edge of the lane, as close to home as one can be in Eleutheria. Home comforts. No matter how hard the decor tries, it can't mask the darkness visible from the window, nor soften the electric light of the Empyrean moon. Still off-duty, diplomats congregate around the triangle-cut sandwiches. They drink sleeped tea with translators, attachés, and runners. The Maiden and the Unicorn is also popular with citizens of the Empyrean. Some come to sample the latest London cuisine, others to do unofficial business with London's embassy. Others, like everyone else, just come to get away from the desk, from the dark. Ask about the transit relay to the Reach. Few diplomats would accept a posting here if they couldn't return to British territory. They know their way of getting back. Rivalry. The gentleman is immediately obliging. We really should put up a sign. It lies to the south of Pan, close by. Clockwise around the region from here. It's under Empyrean control, of course, in accordance with the treaty. He smiles the broad smile of a practiced liar. We thought it would be nice gesture. Let them think they control their borders and all that. For all his confidence, he checked for Empyreans in earshot before saying that. Visit the embassy. The ambassador is always glad to receive guests, suitably respectable ones at least. The ambassador greets you in his study. Instead of a fire burning in the hearth, there is an electrical heater that smells faintly of burning hair. Everything else is comfortingly old-fashioned, from the creaking leather of the armchairs to the vintage of brandy in the drinks cabinet. Have your visa checked by the guards. They are ready to inspect your papers. Ingress. You are welcome to the one true civilization in Eleutheria. You are as free to explore as any citizen. Go to the Uvu of Returned Skies, the spiritual heart of the Empyrean, a sanctuary for its citizens and a monument to its entry to the heavens. Go to the Khan's Market. All merchants in the Empyrean, whether citizen or not, operate only with the express permission of the Eagle Khan. Go to Shangtu, the district of recreation and amusement, where music and games distract from the encroaching dark. I'm going to go to the Khan's Market, get some culture in me. The great markets fill the square below the Khan's palace. The locomotive stations are on the other side of the city, so foreign merchants must travel through the splendid thoroughfares of the Empyrean to get here. Each street is lit by evenly placed electrical lights. The light is cold and casts hard shadows. The Empyrean citizens hurry by in silks and cloth. There is always somewhere to be in the Empyrean. All who live here work. There is no space for idleness. Spot a bespectacled official. An imperial man has been following you since you left the lane of lions and unicorns. The bespectacled official sidles next to you and adjusts his cravat. I need an observer to bring me the latest ongoings in Eleutheria. A traveller would suit my purposes very well. Perhaps we could discuss it over a little tea and a friendly game of mahjong. There's a little park on the lane of lions and unicorns. I'll be by the rose bush. A rose bush? Sure, give your assent. This may be profitable. The nod is enough. The official adjusts his glasses. You go your separate ways. A bustling marketplace where Empyrean traders jostle with Albion merchants, tea traders from Achlys, amber cells from the House of Rods and Chains, and the occasional outlier from Pan. Explore the market. The marvels of imperial technology are on full display. A visitor's fair. There are spices in such abundance you can taste cardamom and cloves in the air. You admire matted wool as intricate as a spider's web and as bright as sunlight. It displays figures from history. Most prominent is the great Khan who built his kingdom in the Zee. Where does the wool come from? The stall keepers will not say. For now, you only pick up a few souvenirs. The electrical lanterns, the miniature moons produced by the Empyrean are unavailable to you. Stall keepers eye you with suspicion when you ask and turn away. After a while, a troop of very polite guards escort you out of the Empyrean to the port. You've seen enough for today, they say. Seems like an interesting spot. Somewhere you'd come back to, like Port Prosper, just drop off some supplies. The bespectacled official. He greets you at his customary table in the park, wearing a warm smile so genuine it must be practiced.
Ah, Secretary, will you join me in playing my favorite game?
It is clear he's not speaking of mahjong, though the table is set and ready for a polite round. Play a game of mahjong with the official. The air is warm, the tea is hot, the moon is burning bright. The unspoken business of spycraft can wait. A quiet moment. The official offers you 2 teas, one more suited to the English palate, the other to that of Empyreans.
There's value in being comfortable with both sides, he says. I spent some time in London myself many years ago. A fine place, fine people. Alas, family duties called, as did my current position serving the rose without thorns. I do still like to keep up with the latest gossip, however. My generous Khan is known to value it as well.
Ask about the Khan's current interests. On the one-off chance you should be travelling in that direction. The House of Rods and Chains.
The House of Rods and Chains remains an uncomfortable mystery on our border. It is a difficult place for our people to remain inconspicuous inside. Perhaps you could be my eyes.
The official carefully places a mahjong tile onto the board.
Your move.
The House of Rods and Chains lies to the southeast of Pan. Oh. We found Pan! It's Peter Pan, everyone. The hour in Pan. Clocks are not welcome in Pan. Instead, the musical piping that emits from the adamant idol dictates the time. The devils of the Brazen Brigade interpret it and inform the city of the current hour and the activities associated with it. An hour may be of any duration. The longest one on record lasted a month, and they occur in no fixed order. A wise captain heeds the hour before setting foot in Pan. It is the hour of veracity, where the word-eaters are abroad. Twice, Eleutheria has been turned upside down by storytellers. Now the profession is prohibited in Pan. During the hour of veracity, the word-eaters bare their feet, cover their faces with ash, and roam the city, confiscating stories. Avoid them as you go about your business. During the other hours, the word-eaters are everyday citizens of Pan, but when the piping permits, and their faces are grey with ash, they serve only the halved son of Eleutheria. Staying sharp. You stay alert as you travel the streets, steering clear of the silent, staring, grey-faced men. Another visitor is less careful. You see the word-eaters pin them against a wall and extract their stories with a hook and a spindle. Yikes. Winters reside. A single street cuts through the groves. Its house is an immaculate copy of London architecture. 3 of the revolutionaries governing Calendar Council have often been seen here. February, January, and ineffable December. The Corn Cake House. The Georgian house is 3 stories high, with silhouettes at every window. Some pace, others gesticulate, others have their heads close, perhaps conspiring. The building is rammed to the gunwales with revolutionaries. Light pours from the open front door. The doorwoman is slight and no real obstacle, but a continuous trickle of revolutionaries passes her, some burlier than your strongest stoker. If she wanted to refuse entry, she'd be able to enforce it. Solitary cobbled street. The street nestled amidst the ruins and trees of Pan, one end abutting an overgrown grove. Revolutionaries with secateurs wage continual war, rebuffing vines attempting to claim the cobbles. The Georgian houses are well kept, and the cleaner than they ever were in London, but only one is lit up. It is the focus of the activity here. Outside, revolutionaries trade, compare wounds, and practice tirades. Their home here offers them solace and restoration before the next battle. Mingle with the revolutionaries. They can speak freely here. A bound and gagged man in resplendent but tattered attire is marched to a house with barred windows. 2 revolutionaries follow, their faces covered by dark masks. The others draw back as they pass. Accept an offer to join the revolutionaries. You are steeped in the mysteries of Eleutheria. Your knowledge is invaluable. Do them a service, and they will believe your ambitions align. Thus far, and no farther, you are ushered through the door of Corncake House. There is only one door available to you, leading into the front room. A burly revolutionary blocking the hallway prevents you from going anywhere else. The room is sparsely decorated. It has shelves lined with well-read books. By the window, a woman in mourning attire sits working at a desk. There are no chairs, but the one she sits upon. The dour woman nods when you're introduced. She does not offer her own name. You have identified 3 who have been more put upon than most. They have been treated callously. She considers you carefully. If you would join us working with the Calendar Council, you must deliver these. 3 envelopes sit upon the desk. Except if the council wishes you to play postman, so be it. Their banal tasks always conceal labyrinthine motives. As I thought, she doesn't smile, but her frown softens. She passes you the first 2 envelopes. Deliver these cards first. The recipients need to know they are not alone. She gives you the 3rd one. I think this person has the resolve to last a little longer. They can wait. She returns to writing. A revolutionary enters to see you out. Oh, here's Pan. That was just discount Pan. King's Idol Station. As exuberant as an old pirate den of the Caribbean, Pan's station teems with thieves and merchants, smugglers and evangelics of inventive new cults. In a grove nearby is the seat of the Cypress King, who has little power. Visit the Cypress King. Pan has no ruler, but it does have a king. The position is not a powerful one, nor secure. The only real authority is to rule on any disagreements that can't be settled at the forum. During the Hour of Thorns, anyone can challenge the king and, if successful, take the crown. In a burgundy grove, shaggy with vines and moss, the current Cypress King resides, a smiling devil, dark-skinned, lounging languidly amidst the roots. He twirls the thorny crown in his fingers. A number of admirers pay him court, hanging on his diabolical wisdom. Ask the king how to leave Eleutheria. The relay stations by which you entered the region was broken. How then might you leave? The king knows. You are informed that the Eagles Empyrean, London's nominal allies in opening the path to the sky, maintain a transit to the gate that leads back to the Reach. The Empyrean lies somewhere in Eleutheria, beyond the belt of midnight. Oh my dear God, there's another one. The Brazen Brigade. This clot of sable groves is home to the devils of the Brazen Brigade. At its heart stands the adamant idol, whose arrhythmic piping determines the current hour in Pan. The Brazen Brigade are its interpreters. They promise they are utterly impartial. The Temple of Almost Time. One ruin rises above the rest, dismal in its desolation. It commands the grove. From its broken windows, the adamant idol can be seen, like the moon viewed from a tower. The commanders and knights of the Brazen Brigade reside within. Here their solemnest rituals and their dearest venerations are performed. The grove of Far Too Late. Here the Brazen Brigade venerate the saints of hell, reliquaries speckle and ground like gemstones on cardinals' vestments. A hill rises from the grove. Halfway up it, a broken temple rests below soaring arches. Behind the hill, from the centre of Pan, the adamant idol is clearly visible. Long shadows move below the arches, swaying to the rhythmic wail of the pipes. Enter the grove. Walk in the fiefdom of the Brazen Brigade, the devils that aspire to seize the heavens' thrones. Thou hast taken, and shall not render again. The carved faces of saints peer down at you from arches and columns. Some have expressions of serenity, their many mouths gently smiling. Others, more ecstatic saints, are contorted in sanctified rapture. A curious dilettante waves you to join him by a sunken arch. You're just in time. They're about... He's cut off by the sound of horns. A troop of devils thunder past. A single devil in a suit is their quarry. They pursue him to the boundary of the grove, where he disappears in the mists. They hate Republicans of their kin, the dilettante whispers. They will not suffer equality here. Speak to the curious dilettante. What can he tell you about himself? Does he know more about the Brazen Brigade? Histories of hell. He looks up from his sketchbook. Well, I wish to witness suffering, not out of sadism, you understand, but my station in life has always been more privileged. My art, myself, lacks something for it. Wishing to learn more of injustice, of doomed causes, I came here. The brigade have been very accommodating. I think they appreciate the interest. As for the brigade, they are unique among devils I've known. They're saints of the grand devils who once served in the heavens, but rebelled and were cast down or imprisoned or fled. The stories are inconsistent on the point. Oh my god, Pan just goes on and on. There are so many people. My brain is melting. Heartcatcher Gardens. A grizzled coterie of gardeners care for this unusual orchid. The plants that grow here are heartcatchers, whose fruit looks and speaks like human heads. The Mimyricon. The inner gardens are surrounded by hedges thick as a fortress wall, knotted with thorns and strangled with vines. Behind it are the grove homes of the heartcatchers, steeped in Eleutheria's midnight, and frequented only by their favoured servants. Within the Mimyricon, the heartcatchers are big as trees and clustered with mature heads. Each plant is a council of intellects, debating the secrets of the sky. Seek entry. An arch in the hedge leads inside. A dozen heads, grey-haired and bitter, peer from among the leaves. Turned away.
Begone, the head insists. You have not been chosen. You have not served.
As far as you can tell, the whole hedge is the body of one vast, brambly heartcatcher. As you turn to leave, one of its heads whispers something and the others snigger. When you ask what was amusing, a hawk-nosed head apologizes.
Sorry, we'll just never get used to how much your heads look like fruit.
Ha! Funny. The nurseries. A series of finely manicured indigo lawns cover this corner of Pan. Peculiar plants grow in the beds, tangled as rose bushes and budding with fruit. The fruit is lumpen, perfectly formed, facial features are growing on it. This one has a frantic, staring eye. This one is growing an ear. This one keens pitiably through tiny, trembling lips. Silent gardeners, whose broad-brimmed hats are hung with veils to hide their faces, tend devotedly to the plants. Speak to a green-fingered old warhorse. He removes his hat. The face beneath is scarred and bleak. A soldier's face. You must occupy a senior position, for the other gardeners nod their heads as they pass him. Beneath his overalls he wears a rat-skin suit, ragged from the plant's playful thorns. There is a deadness to his gaze. Ask about the petitioners. A number of desperate-looking people are lined at the hedgerow gates to the inner gardens. A death in a bottle.
The heartcatchers know many secrets, he says. Among them is a method to capture a death and seal it away so that it can't trouble you. If you fear a particular end, like drowning, say, or freezing, the heartcatchers could hide it away.
He takes a cage of squirming mice from his pocket, fishes one out, and drops it into the thorny vines of the closest plant. The vines constrict. The mouse squeaks. The plants shiver.
There's no guarantee of immortality, of course. 1,000 deaths await in the skies.
Ask him about himself. Judging from his military bearing, he was not always a gardener. Past lives.
No, once I was a soldier, and a commander of soldiers. I was good at it, as such things are measured. Now I keep the gardens, tend the heartcatchers, and pray that I have no further effect on the world at all.
Another gardener passes you, carrying a bucket. You're kneeling by a bed full of budding heartcatchers. They tip the bucket over. The contents ooze redly onto the soil. Ask about the heartcatchers. Learn more about these peculiar plants. The scholars and counsellors.
They are a species native to the heavens, he observes. Here in the nurseries we help the younger specimens grow to maturity before transferring them to the inner gardens, the Mimyricon.
He indicates some colleagues who are digging up the largest plant in the garden and wrestling it onto a cart, while it tries, affectionately, to throttle them. You note its fruit, which are now big enough to resemble the faces of bawling cherubs.
Once fully grown, the warhorse continues, their fruit can reason and speak and debate more effectively than we even. Each plant is an entire council or faculty.
Ask about entering the inner garden. A hedge encloses it, an archway permits entrance, but is protected by a mature heartcatcher whose cynical face peers from the thicket. They excoriate intruders with insightful critique. Quid pro quo. Well, only friends of the heartcatchers may enter the Memoricon, and successful petitioners, of course, but the latter are blindfolded. Perhaps if you performed a service for the heartcatchers, they would warm you up to you. Ain't gonna happen. Goodbye. Another one. Oh my god. The Gentlemen, a coalition of smugglers bound by crimson oaths of silence. The midnight confessionals. In the gloom behind the lights of Pan, the gentlemen ply their midnight trade. They shun those who don't know their signs or their oaths, forbidding entry to their hidden sanctuary. But a confessional box stands on the platform's end. There, skyfarers may sell information to the gentlemen, while the identities of both parties remain safely concealed. The Gentlemen. This part of Pan is claimed by the Gentlemen, a notorious gang of smugglers and their families, hangers-on, clients, and parasites. Lanterns hang on posts, making piles of pooled lamplight across the ruins. Ramshackle pubs have been built in tumbled naves and old arches. Here in the lawless galleries of Pan, the gentlemen have no need to hide their activities. Smugglers boast of their schemes and their murders. Wild laughter rings out. Knives glint. Look around to disembark and explore. You are not welcome here. The gentlemen are close-knit, and their oaths of silence are savage. Any visitor might be an informant for the revenue men. When a larger gang begins to gather, bristling with blades and cudgels, you return to your engine. Ooh. This place looks different. Gentlemen, we've found the Midnight Groves. Achlys. I hope I'm pronouncing that one. Arrival in Achlys. You can disembark onto a soggy wooden platform, barely supported by the marsh mud below. It leads past several squalid huts and the hulls of scavenged engines to the warmth of a marketplace on wooden stilts. Nearby, what remains of an ancient monastery just holds on against the ravages of time and the swampy ground below. Enter the port. Something is going on down there on the other side of the monastery. Fire flickers. Treachery carries on the wind. A woman smoking a cigarette watches from the shadows, unaware of your presence, as a group of grizzled skyfarers attempts to force the monastery's doors. Unlike the crumbling stone, these are made of solid new metal, and more than up to the task of repelling the attack. However, with every blow against them, the monastery itself seems to shudder. Dust rains from high up. Stones creak. It will not take much before something gives. Intervene. This may not be your problem, but you can make it your fight. You summon a few of your crew with a wave back to the locomotive. Before you can join the attack, however, the war cry echoes through the marsh. Urchins, ring breakers from old London, from the look of them, surge at the attackers, armed with broomsticks with sharp objects taped on the end, colander helmets, and cardboard armor. In the name of the Valkyrie, they shout, launching their attacks. For Siegfried! They swiftly rout the attackers. The woman with the cigarette is long gone, leaving behind nothing but the smell of expensive ash. Rotting wooden huts and stilts stretch up out of the marshland, connected by rickety walkways and gently swaying rope bridges. Red paper lanterns line the paths, offering just enough flickering light to avoid unfortunate tumbles into the dark mud below. Ring-breaker urchins in colander helmets and tea-tray armor stand to slack attention, longing for a little trouble. Visit the Court of Tea and Spices. The bulk of the market is devoted to brews and incense, and the almost priceless Midnight's Favour. Every breeze carries a different scent. Oh my god. Clouds of rich scents hang in the air. Though the market is small, it is bustling with London and native Eleutherian traders. Each cramped stall and barrel is piled high with the region's finest tea leaves, opiates, salts and spices. Browse the tea barrows. Many of the spice merchants have tattoos on their left cheek, denoting what they sell. The Londoners present have yet to adopt the tradition. Endless varieties. Although this port is mostly famed for its homegrown Midnight's Favour, it is quickly becoming a trade hub for every flavour and blend of tea you could possibly wish for. Customers don't brew them, but bite into the leaves and lick samples off their fingers. Ask about Midnight's Favour. Stories say it is blacker than night and tastes even deeper. the rarest of delicacies. Your inquiries draw a little bit averted eyes and apologies that they are not worthy of Midnight's favour. The select few who trade in it consider it far too precious to simply sell. Visit Murgatroyd's Taste of Albion. Even out here you can get a mug of Murgatroyd's finest. Although one of the more professional-looking barrows in the market, the Murgatroyd family's specialty blends have gained little traction. Proprietress Amberly Murgatroyd glares at you from behind a slender cigarette holder, twitching at the inconvenience of your presence. Speak with Amberly Murgatroyd. There aren't many fellow Albioners this far into Eleutheria. Are you here to buy? Amberly glances around, looking for a distraction. If you're not here to buy, I don't know why you're here, unless, she sizes you up, perhaps. Perhaps, that sounds like an opportunity in the offing. Amberly lights a fresh cigarette. I'm sure you've heard of Midnight's favour. It's all anyone wants around here. Well, I have a plan to deal with that. Were you to assist me when the moment presents itself, well, I would be most grateful, in a most profitable way for both of us. You know, I only just know you, but I'm getting the feeling that I know what you mean. Ask about Midnight's favour. Even if it's the competition, she must know about it. A sore spot. Oh, we are not worthy of Midnight's favour. Amberly snaps her tone, suggesting that she's parroting someone else. Haven't touched the stuff. Can't wait to get back to Albion and never hear about it again. When I'm running the business, she catches herself, well, I'll have my sights set rather higher than beverages. Ask about Sigrid and the urchins. The urchins seem too young to be in a position of authority. Fingers squeezed white around a cigarette holder. That little scrot and her infernal playmates. Amberly shakes her head. I'd blame the parents if she'd had any. No discipline. A few damn good spankings never did anyone harm. Today's youth could do with getting to know the back end of a sliver. Just look at my sister, Melusine. She's a bit... won't go there. Inquire about the family business. The Murgatroyd Company is known for more than tea and crackers. There is little you can learn at their salon for the right price. A more specialised branch of the family tree. Amberly looks at you with disdain. Oh, please, even if I had time for Father's Spymaster games, exactly how much do you think one overhears on the edge of nowhere? She takes a long, pointed drag from her cigarette. Honestly, if you must waste someone's time with such nonsense, go know my sister, Melusine. I think we stashed her somewhere in the Reach. Here are no ridiculous inventions. As I'm sure she's nothing better to do than to listen to you. Damn, I will go to see her, and I'll tell her how much of a bitch you are. Maybe she'll fix me a contraption, like a gun, to get rid of you. Visit the Midnight Garden. Steps lead up to the wooden temple, landscaped with flowers and gravel. Not just anyone is welcome. Mere money will not grease the wheels. The noise of the market slowly fades as you follow the rickety wooden steps down to the marsh. Bohemians calling themselves midnight connoisseurs have built a wooden pagoda overlooking the monastery to savour the taste of the leaves that grow within. Ask the midnight connoisseurs about the tea. How good can it be to be worth so much trouble? Gasp of shock. You would even ask, in this place, so close to its presence. The midnight connoisseurs stare at you coldly from behind their teacups. I'm not paying $100 to be in your little garden party. Enter the House of Silks. A sleepy warmth oozes through the curtains. Admission is free. What awaits inside is negotiable. The curtain parts with a sickly sweet breath of incense. Velvet wraps the inside of the hut like a fine chocolate box, with silk curtains delicately hanging down to provide translucent privacy for guests. Behind, the shadows of wealthy traders lie in the embrace of soft, well-plumped cushions, gently sipping from bronze hookah pipes until their eyes and troubles are somewhere else entirely. Request an audience with Mr. Pipes. The hooded proprietor keeps to itself at the back of the house. A particularly large hookah pipe delivers smoke into the darkness of its cloak. A gramophone beside it quietly plays a Bach concerto. An apologetic refusal. A serving boy returns, bowing apologetically. Mr. Pipes is relaxing, and has no interest in either chitter-chatter. If you have business, you may present it to one of the staff, otherwise his master encourages you to avail yourself of the facilities. Gee, what a warm welcome. Ask about the Midnight's favour. A place like this should have the specialty of the port. With deepest apologies, the serving girl shakes her head. We are not worthy of midnight fervor, perhaps. In the distance, her cloaked master raises an arm, or at least a sleeve, just a little. A summons. Excuse me, please. Visit the vigilant Nightingale. An old, mostly picked apart locomotive acts as the ring breaker's urchin's kip and base of operations. Two of them guard it sleepily. One of the urchins jabs at you with her weapon, a broomstick with a knife at the end. Friend or foe? Friend. Delivered with an encouraging smile. The urchins salute. Good, good, enter, friend. This broken-down engine has been comprehensively gutted to serve as the ring breaker's home and base. Filthy hammocks stretch between metal bars, most full of snoring urchins. Others sit around decorating tea tray armor with bright paints or sparring playfully with wooden sticks. Visit the captain's cabin. The door leads to one of the few rooms that hasn't been gutted. A series of names have been scratched on into it, and then scratched out. The only one still readable says Sigrid. Knock knock. Enter! Barks a high-pitched voice. Sigrid Spitzer, Valkyrie of the Ringbreakers, and the closest thing this port has to law. Despite being the youngest Ringbreaker to be declared Valkyrie, Sigrid is the glare of a seasoned general, the scars to back it up. She sits sternly behind a mahogany desk almost as tall as she is, carefully engrossed in a copy of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It is a show of military diligence only slightly undercut by it being upside down. Ask about the Ringbreakers. Why are the urchins acting like the constabulary in this port? Someone's got a right. Sigrid's face is a mixture of pride in her job and irritation at being questioned. Don't just be thinking we're a bunch of kids. You're of the Valkyrie, greatest warrior in old London she was. Yeah, well, in her name we kicked out the old bugger what brought us to the wilderness to clean out his chimneys or whatever. And now we've at home. Can't blame us for wanting to protect it, right? Even if it's a bit damp in bits. Course, she adds, can't stay here forever. Rule one of the Ringbreakers, when you're old enough, that's when it's time to go out and find fortune out there, and find others to fill their places. All welcome. Just got square by our code, and they're welcome to grab a hammock, at least long as they don't fart too much in their sleep. Hilarious. Ask about the monastery. It dominates the port, but stands apart from it. Midnight. Never been in myself, Sigrid admits. Them Bohemian types in town are said to know a way, but it ain't through the front door. Anyway, without the tea from the place, we'd not have much of a home. Reckon we'll keep defending it. Valkyrie doesn't need much thanking. Ask about the Midnight's favour. She must know about the brew that made this port's name. A shrug. Yeah, like them snooty Bohemian types that let us try that stuff, Sigrid shrugs. No big problem. Nothing wrong with juice. Not unless you want to drink it after brushing your teeth. Just don't brush 'em, that's what I say. Probably bad for 'em anyway, working 'em over like that. Please don't open your mouth. Ask about the War of Midnight. What's going on between her crew and the attackers? Sigrid's face darkens. Shouldn't have let that Amberley Murgatroyd get her boots dry after striding into port. We know it's her trying to destroy the Midnight Tea, so everyone will buy Daddy's old scrapings instead. But she's tricksy. With them claymen of hers always around, we can't go accidentally pushing her off into the marsh. But we'll get her. Oh yeah. Visit the brig. A series of iron bars have been welded into the stern, ready to hold anyone who might do the port harm. Prisoners of Sigrid. A mix of angry, doleful, and drunk eyes stare back at you from the darkness. All the prisoners have been stripped to their underthings. The Ringbreakers do their best to keep them happy by regularly throwing them boiled sweets. It doesn't appear to be working. Examine a prominent statue. It sits in the middle of a dock, untouched by chalks, scribbles, or damage. A couple of tattooed spice merchants lean against it, quietly eating their lunch. A statue. The mysterious founder, it can be assumed. If not, someone equally important to the market port. They look somewhat more imp than man, with a flag on their lapel that matches the crest on the nearby wreck of the vigilant Nightingale. Peering closely, there is a plaque between the figure's feet. Someone has scratched out all the details, perhaps the subject themselves, preferring to maintain a sense of mystery, or plausible deniability. Walk down to the monastery. The path is narrow and poorly lit. Not many venture this way. Petrified veins run down the side of this ancient structure. Two giant featureless doors block the crumbling entrance, far too large for any human to open. The metal is unfamiliar, but resilient. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of the monastery itself. The ages have not been kind. Speak with an impatient penitent. He beats his fist against the door, getting nothing but bloody knuckles for his trouble. A lost love. He blinks with tears from his eyes. You're Captain Right. You've got to look about you. Maybe you can help. My husband, he was never the same after he came back from the sea with that tattoo. The eye. That blasted eye. It drew him here. I'm sure of it. Cool. I'm off. Good luck with that. Head into the marshes. A pair of urchins guard the path out of the market. Into the marsh. Wouldn't, warns the older of the two. Nothing out there but plants wanting to eat your face off and water that drives you potty. But they show no interest in stopping you. The marsh beckons. The lights of the port slowly fade. Beyond lies a forested grey swamp, misted over and filled with leafless black trees that claw at the air. Few venture out here, except to gather incense for what they call Achlys garden. There are no maps to it. Many do not return. But your head is clear. The path ahead looks manageable. You have nothing to fear. Continue through the marsh, onwards and forwards in search of its secrets. Swamp slurps at your boots. The mist makes it impossible to gauge any real direction. You might have been turned around 100 times and never known it. Cling to the tree lines. They must lead somewhere. Time passes. For a while you have dry land under your feet, a small forested path overgrown with vines. A family of will-o'-the-wisps dance around a fairy circle, awaiting their next foolhardy volunteer. Every footstep is increasingly difficult to finish. An encounter. Something looms out of the marsh mist. Just a trick of the light. A fallen log. Nothing of consequence. The path splits 3 ways, each somehow less encouraging than the last. You shiver in the cold of your wet, muddy clothes. The mud bubbles. The air here is poison. Continue through the marsh, onwards and forwards in search of its secrets. Close your eyes and choose a direction. It is likely to be good as any other. Time passes. Black trees loom through mists, their clawed branches rattling despite the lack of any noticeable wind. A batch of spore-throwing plants spits their poison in your direction. You feel dizzy. So dizzy. Continue through the maze, onwards and forwards in search of its secrets. Stick to the water. There may be treasures under its foul surface. Time passes. Black trees loom through the mists, their clawed branches rattling despite the lack of any noticeable wind. Your voice echoes in the perpetual night. Echo, echo, echo. Down in the mud. A sharp pain. The snake slithers away, its killing instincts bigger than its stomach. Attempt to retrace your steps. You've been out here too long already. Every hour you get more lost. Back to civilization. You emerge from the marsh, much to the surprise of the ringbreaker urchins guarding the torchlit entrance. Still, it will be a while before your head is ready for another trip out there. Jesus, I am in agreement. There we are. Piranesi. Place looks nice. The Niobe seclusion, a mansion of immense size surrounded by acres of neatly kept garden. It is tranquil here. In fact, it appears utterly devoid of life. The prison and the cottage. Polyhedric sculptures, the dimensions eye-wateringly off. Grass of uniform colour and uniform length, placid canals, crisscrossed at right angles, all bisected by a pale gravel path, leading to the door of a broad ivy-shrouded mansion. Someone take the thesaurus out of this man's hand! Only its lack of windows betrays Piranesi as a prison. Utter silence, bar the crunching of gravel beneath your feet. As you approach, you take note of the tiny cottage, incongruously nestled beside the mansion like a louse. A curtain twitches. Enter the cottage. The prison is locked, but the cottage door springs open at your approach. The only sound of the cottage is that of a teaspoon clinking against the porcelain. A group of brown-robed figures turn to regard you. One, grey-haired, grey-eyed, offers you tea. "We are the chaplains," she says. "Our role is to help inmates reach egress. You must understand, none may leave Piranesi unaltered. We can be your guide," pipes another. "2 tours per visit. Choose your chaperone and take care to follow the rules." Why do you need a guide? The windowless prison is large, but surely it can be mapped. A choice, a gambit. The grey-eyed woman sips her tea.
Do not attempt to judge size or distance here. Piranesi is unmapped and unmappable. There are only a few areas we know how to reach.
I'll show you the statue garden, says the bearded chaplain with the kind eyes, where I help prisoners achieve redemption.
I know the warrants.
Beneath the shadows of the third chaplain's hood, you glimpse a slithering mass of disturbed flesh. He says nothing more. The final chaplain wears her round spectacles, but his eyes are gone. His grin threatens to break free of his face.
Come with me, come with me. Oh, please, I am so very bored.
Choose the gallant reformer as your guide. I like this man. Choose the glib performer as your guide. Eyes like coal pits, incongruous above a broad and delighted smile. I'm choosing the car salesman, that's right. This man's taking me for a ride around the citadel. Into Piranesi, the glib performer hoots with laughter. He grabs an iron lamp from a high shelf and hurries you from the cottage.
We shall be very best of friends, you and I. He prods and shoves you up the gravel path
to the doorstep of Piranesi. Footsteps are worn into the stone. He has no key. He simply stands back, whistles sharply, and the grand oak door opens without further protest. There's nothing, and no one on the other side. You follow the performer as he dashes into the dark. See, this man is fun, right? I mean, the other one would probably just speak Bibles at you, but this guy's actually... I mean, he's probably going to sell us up the river to, like, some common scum to any passerby, but still, it's fun while it lasts. Piranesi is, of course, bigger on the inside. The performer's lamplight stretches only so far. You catch sight of dizzying spiral stairways, columns clad in chains, walls grooved by trickling water. The performer scampers ahead, chattering idly about the streets and architecture of London. After a few minutes, you are halted by some toppled scaffolding.
Piranesi has 3 rules,
says the chaplain, helping you climb over the obstacle.
The penalty for breaking them is the incarnation, and the written 4th rule is the chaplains are forbidden from explaining them to visitors, so I'm afraid you must discover them yourself. Tread carefully in the meantime.
Continue following the performer.
Follow close, my dear, or something will happen to you.
The prisoner's lamps. Further into the prison, you begin to see inmates, faint lights shuffling across distant bridges, hunched figures with lamps chained to their wrists.
See those lamps?
Asks the performer, elbowing you in the ribs.
They impose a distortion of distance. A prisoner's proximity to the exit is determined by how they have changed since they entered. The more they change, the closer they are to freedom. Some are more mutable than others, and the severity of sentence varies.
The performer throws a pebble into a cavernous well. After some time, a faint "ouch" echoes from below.
Those cast into the deepest reaches must change beyond all recognition.
The performer leads you up the staircase so steep it rapidly comes a ladder.
Down below, the others stop me having my fun.
As at the top, you find yourself among bridges and precarious ledges. Vapour swirls below your feet. The performer dances across dizzying drops. And when you come upon a cluster of prisoners, he begins tripping and prodding them with glee. One is knocked from her perch and only saved when she clings to a gargoyle.
"Janine," he says, "it's a terrible good time."
Press the performer for information. What can he tell you about the Piranesi and other chaplains? The glib performer. He produces a string of colourful handkerchiefs from his sleeve and wraps them around your neck just tight enough to squeeze.
"The other chaplains are extremely dull," he says. "Why don't we talk about something fascinating, like the patterns upon moths, or gentrification, or the soaring of a part of an elderly widower?"
I'm with you, man. Those guys sounded dull. But just don't kill me, you know. Help him torment the prisoners.
"The spirit!"
declares the performer, poking an old lady firmly in the eye. The glib performer. You rack your brain and soon come up with the torments that you suspect will amuse the performer. You dangle prisoners over lengthy drops by their ankles or lift them bodily and leave them on high ledges from which they can't escape. By the time you're finished, there are tears of laughter streaming from the performer's empty eyes. "Oh, this reminds me of an old joke," he says.
"Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance?"
You reply that you don't know.
"Because years earlier he was murdered by his tour guide."
The performer beams and leads you further up a spiral staircase. Comforting. You follow the performer up corkscrew stairs and across walkways as wide as your hand. The floor is sickeningly far below. Finally, he stops at the threshold of a grand stone bridge beneath a cracked arch. He turns to you, lifting his spectacles and scratching at the withered interior of an eye socket. "It's too dangerous for us to go further unless you've learned the first and second rules of Piranesi," he says. "You haven't learned both the first and second rules." "Then we should return to the gates," says the performer, grinning. "Come back when you're a veteran of this place." Great lot of good you did. The performer leaves you ever downwards. The glib performer strides before you, beckoning you to follow, up narrow stairs, over precarious bridges, beneath crumbling bartizans. The architecture seems to have changed since you last walked here, but it's as jumbled and oppressive as ever. You pass a squalling thing clinging to the wall. It lacks structure or substance, except its stark eyes.
What was my name?
It mewls. What is this thing? Give it a new name. The first step to an identity. A violation of the rules. The formless thing detaches from the wall and clutches at your knees, sobbing in gratitude. "You sacrificed your freedom for me. I am not worthy." A sudden weight at your wrists. A lamp shackled to your arm. Piranesi begins to expand around you, staircases lengthening, walls retreating. The performer laughs and laughs. You've broken the second rule of Piranesi. Don't give your names to the nameless. Search for the chaplain, but they've slipped away. You're alone and imprisoned. Must change before you can hope to reach the exit. Oh, you son of a bitch. Never trust the man with the indiscernible accent. With a lamp chained to your wrist, Piranesi walls fall away. The prisoner's blooms into an endless nightmarish forest of bleak and shifting architecture. During tours with the chaplains, the prison at least adhered to conventional perspective and orientation. No longer. Upstairs, you may find yourself in the cellars. Descending, you arrive at a balcony. Yet no matter how you wander, Piranesi brings you back to the same place. A garden of cluttered stone statues. You've been convicted of only a minor infraction, and you shouldn't need to change too much before you're released. Alter a facet of your past. You wander through the halls of Piranesi, picking up abandoned instruments and tools. Sitting at a canvas, you find yourself remembering portraits you never painted. Hefting a hammer, you recall a house you never built. These are the aspects of old prisoners, discarded. They have been left to encourage transformation in those still entombed. You flip between them, you gather, you discard. The distinction between your past and Piranesi's cast-offs start to blur. You're imprisoned elsewhere, once, but that's fading. Was there ever anywhere but Piranesi? Hidden in an alcove behind a set of winding stairs, you stumble upon a bedraggled bird in a cage. When it sings, you recognize the wind that used to howl through your old cell's narrow window. Do you let the bird free? From manacles to mechanicals, in Piranesi you build something. Memories of the old prison wash away. At last! Attempting to navigate through Piranesi is like trying to steer a nightmare. Bridges shift beneath your feet, taking you back to where you began. Every corner you turn reveals another mile of identical hallway. After timeless days, your shoes are in tatters and your feet blistered. As you pause, ready to give up, you feel a sudden lightness at your wrist. Your shackles have crumpled. The lamp clatters to the floor. You lift your weary head and find yourself staring at the exit. Utter silence. The chaplain's cottage is dark and empty, and your knock goes unanswered. Turn and leave. It seems Piranesi is closed to visitors today. A chance encounter. As you leave, you come across the glistening deformer in the cottage's herb garden. He's still wearing his hooded robes, but he's stuffed gardening gloves over the sleeves, and is engaged in a furiously futile attempt to stamp his shovel into the stony soil.
"We're currently indisposed," he grunts, noticing you for the first time. "We'll be open to visitors again in 2 weeks.
As you turn to leave, he finally manages to embed his spade into the ground and levers up something tendrilled and twitching from the soil. Okay, that was a bit fucked up. Just a little bit. Last I rest my face. The House of Rods and Chains, the Carapace. Vast, desolate, broken. Once this creature flew majestically through the heavens. Now it floats in silence, a monument to judgment's wrath. The spire of inches, 7 obsidian spires once stretched into the sky. Only this one remains. Dim light oozes through a single window at the top, occasionally flickering as someone or something passes in front of the fire. Knock on the door. There is no handle on this side, just barely perceptible outline of the door with a circular symbol roughly carved onto it. There's no response. The obsidian surface absorbs the knock, leaving the rap of your knuckles sounding small and hollow. There is no answer. Fuck it, let's do it. Present a tribute to the spire, a searing enigma, a word spoken by a son. The keeper of the spire will be eager to pass this intelligence to its master. Behind it, 777 steps wind up the wall, leaving an open chimney in the middle that would be ideal if you had wings. At the very top waits a hunched figure wrapped in a gauze.
Are you a friend, I wonder, or foe? No matter. You may call me by Mr. Barleycorn. You have proven yourself resourceful. Let us see if you can also be useful.
Mr. Barleycorn? You couldn't think of a better name. Oh my god, forget I said that. Your name's really cool, man. You're in a room of sorts. It is bulbous in shape, not unlike a kidney. The furnishings, if that is what they are, look like the work of a surrealist. This straight-backed, many-legged edifice is perhaps a chair, that oily surface, a table, an altar. Behind it, the hunched gauze figure stands looking out at something far away. A black sun. The darkness squirms. Talk with Mr. Barleycorn. It wondered if you could be useful. What does it want? Loyalty.
There were 7 of us once, outcasts bound to this messenger's service. But the messenger defied the Halved's command, and the Halved slew it. We were free. My colleagues fled, but I remained to serve the Halved.
The creature sighs.
Don't mistake this for more than it is. I am not lonely.
It spits the word.
But our shapeling guests downstairs are poor conversationalists. It has been a long time since I spoke to any of my kind. If you find one, show them this.
It hands you a wax seal imprinted with a sigil.
Collect their stories. Perhaps advise them I would not resent a conversation, should the wings of fate allow.
Consider the Eleutheria's black sun. The window of Mr. Barleycorn's study frames it perfectly. The sun writhes. A flicker of fire escapes its coils, only to be dragged back and quenched.
My lord, the Halved, wants judgment of measures and distance.
Mr. Barleycorn bows to it.
He knew of London. He beheld it through a wound in the world. We reached out and set his mask on those who trespassed on the wound. They became our messengers. When they found their way to the skies, their masks led them here, to the land of do as you please.
The creature examines you.
Would you care for one? A mark. I have 1 or 2 left.
Accept the mark. What could the harm of that be? Mr. Barleycorn clamps its arm around your shoulder. For a few agonizing minutes, it feels like a hive of bees are at work on your flesh. The creature releases its grip, and the pain eases. You twist to see it, an eye embedded in your flesh. Okay, well, my soul is a bit fucked now. Examine the altar. Its surface ripples oleaginously at your approach. I must admit, I never thought a word like that would ever exist. A memory of water. You touch the surface. The world twists, and there is only darkness and water and cold and drowning. You kick your feet, thrashing to the surface. Impossible. The sky with its false stars, the green glass expanse of an ocean without waves. This is the Neath, the vast subterranean cavern in which London lay before climbing to the heavens. And the cold black waters you are thrashing in are... it's undersea. Oh my god, I'm not going there, am I? No, not Sunless sea. Freezing water, thrashing legs, absolute darkness, except the dim glimmers of false stars above. The sea stretching out forever under a stalactite sky. Dark and deep and unforgiving. Swim for land, but which way is London? The avid horizon, Port Cornelian. The sea is wide and deep and lonely. Shout for help. There is no point, but... Your voice is hollow, swallowed up by the cavernous Neath. Jettison some weight, heavy boots, thick cottons. Your sky suit was not built for swimming. You fight and struggle out of some of the heavier items in the hope of improving your buoyancy. The result leaves you better able to float, but cold. So cold. The chattering of your teeth echoes in your skull. Give up? There is no London down here anymore. There will be no rescue. You let yourself go limp, let the waters into your lungs. Exhausted. The Z embraces you. Drowning. Water covers your eyes, it fills your lungs. The currents of the Z tug gently at first, and then more forcefully. The pain of drowning gives way to a softer agony of unconsciousness. In the darkness, an eye. It opens and the world is upside down. You fall to the floor of Mr. Barley's study, coughing up water. The gauze-wrapped figure barely looks up from a spindly instrument that resembles a driftwood harp. Do be careful what you touch, it advises you, plucking at an oily string. Gee, thanks, dude. It's something you couldn't have told me earlier. Return downstairs. The air tastes of salt and rot. Up close, the carcass of this ancient crustacean resembles a battlefield. Its carapace is pockmarked from the impacts of space detritus, and cracked open from the impact of 6 spires. Doors of leather, rubber, chitin. I think I meant to say chitin. Scale, fur, flesh, and feather lead inside, each of them carved and branded with a letter of the correspondence. Attempt to open the chitin door. The other doors are tightly closed or too high to reach. This one is slightly ajar. Into the house. It takes every last drop of your strength, and the chitin door fights you all the way. It is as thick as armor plating, and almost as heavy. Inside, 100 rubbery men carefully ignore your arrival. Refugee Londoners, you recognise. The giveaway being their hats on their tentacled faces and the yellowing copies of the Gazette under their clammy armpits. Such earnest social camouflage never helped them fit in with society back home. But it seems old habits die hard. The robbery men have taken over this spiral-shaped atrium. They gather here to trade amber and share songs of loss and regret. Its shape gives it excellent acoustics. Songs resonate from the walls, doubling the volume and timbre of their voices. Attend the lament of the old sun. The robbery men are gathered. They lower their heads and raise their voices. Memories of exile. Words without language, pain without end. They sing to their lost home, and in waves of shared sorrow they remember how long they came to this place. They sing and remember. Silence falls, sudden and heavy. A hunched figure shuffles through the choir, and the robbery men fall back. This is Mr. Barleycorn, or so it is called by lesser beings. Its form is indistinct beneath layers of gauze that wrap it, if not from head to toe, then at least from top to bottom. One robbery dares approach, extending tribute. Golden amber. The figure takes it between clawed appendages, tastes it, appears to approve. Visit the marketplace. The robbery men sit around the edges of the atrium, ready to trade and offer their services. Polished ivory bones carve the walls of the throat into convenient alcoves. Each has been appropriated by one or more robbery men, squatting on Hessian mats and running stalls inspired by their time in London. They trade in amber, a naturally exuded substance of their kind, making trade more ceremonial than commercial. Trade for curiosities. One robbery trader has a particularly large stall. Its wide arrays of goods are mostly worthless. This robbery trader sits on a mat strewn with oddities, baubles, novelties, trifles, curios, gewgaws, beads, bagatelles, whatnots, and junk. If there are diamonds hiding in this particular rough, they are likely glass beads with pretensions of value. However, treasures have been found in the unlikeliest of collections. Examine the robbery man's stall. The best stuff is unlikely to be on display. You have to hope so. First impressions. At first glance, there is little of note. Second and third glance confirms this. While there are some trade goods from the high wilderness itself, most of the robbery trader's collection consists of familiar London goods of little worth. A guide to breeding heptagoats, an old permit for the Echo Bazaar, counterfeit, and a poor one. Nothing of any particular value. Descend deeper into the house. Spiral stairs run down into the darkness. The house's arteries are the size of corridors, many of them filled with stagnant, sweet water and held open with arches of bone ivory. The walls are primarily polished chitin, you cretin, that resembles mahogany, though years of rot and decay have left many gaps to glimpse the dried out fat and muscles behind. Explore the drowning coils. The rubbery men here are less civilized than their topside brethren. They wear no hats and carry no newspapers. Eyes watch you from within the walls. Lost in biology. Your explorations lead through hardened sphincters that scrape your flesh. You squeeze through twisted doors designed to be opened by something entirely unlike a hand. The rooms down here are bowl-shaped, many half filled with water or unrecognizable fluid. Their doors are as likely to lead to ceilings or high up on the concave walls as anywhere convenient for you. Most are empty or piled high with rubbery waste. Visit the shapeling vats. Rubbery men head into the labyrinth of corridors and return with rainbows of damp amber. You carefully traverse a thin, treacherous path lined with endless deep slime-filled cavities and basins. All around, the rubberies are working at refining and reshaping amber into new forms and colours. They pause only to stare, unblinking, at you, until you move past. More awkward than hostile. Observe the rubbery men. What is the purpose of their work? The colour of amber. The exact relationship between rubbery men and their amber remains their own business. In London, amber is all much the same. Here they experiment, combining it with other materials to transmute it. Few flute excitedly as golden amber pours from the vats. It is the rarest and most beloved flavour. Sometimes amber emerges treacle thick and black as tar. The effort and resources that went to it, wasted. Heading deeper into the house, the path is treacherous, the floor is slick, the air hangs with resentment that becomes less civil and more feral as the light fades away. The alkali-infused darkness burns your eyes. Down here, the rubbery men commingle in quivering colonies and leach from the weeds that sprout from pools of viscous white ammonia. The only light comes from the smouldering Apocian pyres, each attended by a rubbery chorus howling an endless lament. Explore the vast cavern. The feral rubberies stare at you from their nests. Rotten ammonia. The air down here is slowly melting the house's innards, collapsing lost rooms and corridors into one rank, endless cavity lined with calcified abscesses. The foul liquid regularly rises to your knees. An itchy rash develops where it touches. Occasionally your feet kick against the chips of amber in the mire. There must be larger pieces here, but hunting for them is not a one-person job. Not for a captain, at least. Explore the shell. There may be something to find in the wreckage. A house of the dead. The surface is desolate. It is littered with obsidian blocks from the fallen spires. Here and there a large piece of space debris has torn up part of the carapace and exposed the flesh below. Even that is desiccated now, and cold as any rock. None of the damage you find looks like something that could be fatal for a creature of this size. That's a bit disturbing. So that's it. Woo! So that's it, folks. Woo! We did it! Yeah! That's Sunless Skies. That's every single place in Sunless Skies. Done. That's the series concluded. It's a shame I couldn't bring you the ending of the thing, of the ambition that I was working towards, but the save file is corrupted, and I don't really have a way of getting it back. Thank you so much for hanging around, listening to me ramble for like however many hours now. God, my eyes are glazing over, they're rolling back in my head. I'm like, ugh. I've really enjoyed this series, actually. Like, I had some tests of faith, you know, and I wondered, and I had my ups and downs with the game, particularly when I had to farm shit. Like, that was when it was like, oh god, please end my life. I don't want to play this anymore. But this is genuinely a very good game. Pick it up on Steam if you haven't already. There's a lot to explore, which I've just brushed completely over in the interest of time, because I'm not going to be doing this till I'm old and my balls are sagging and my hair's falling out. What little hair I do have left is probably going to be grey. I'm going to move on. If you want to do more, good on you. A review of this will be coming out soon. It may not be overly positive, but that's just me, right? I like to be nice and critical. But just know, I have the highest respect for the developers of this game, and I've really enjoyed this series. So, Next series will probably end up being something a little less wordy. Maybe Darkwood. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, thank you. That's it, folks. I'll catch you later.